Okay, good morning. So we're up to Shin Ayin Daled Seif Base. Says the Mechaber, Hoya Kaisel ben Shtei Chatzeros. So there is a kaisel between two Chatzeros. Ve'erve kol achas la'atzman. Each of the two Chatzeros had made their own independent Erevin. That means to enable them to carry from the bias into the Chatzer and vice versa. V'nifratz ha-kaisel b'Shabbos. And then this wall which divides these two Chatzeros breaches. Mutarim l'taltel kol Shabbos. They're allowed to carry as previously as they were previously, i.e., from the bias of Chatzer A into the Chatzer of Chatzer A. Kol Shabbos and Chatzer B can carry from his house into the Chatzer. They can do that the whole of Shabbos. Kol echad b'chatzera, each one into their Chatzer. Afilu klei bias. Aval Chatzer shenifritza b'Shabbos l'Sharabim or l'Karmelis also. But if it breaches into a Sharabim onto a Karmelis, it would be also. So here in this one, it's got a nice picture. Where is it? Yeah. So if you look at picture number 2, it's quite a straightforward situation. You've got two Chatzeros, and each Chatzer has got at least a couple of houses, and there's a big wall in between them, and therefore you can't make one joint eruv, but each bias made their own eruv with it. So Chatzer A had one eruv, Chatzer B had another eruv, and now the trouble is during Shabbos the wall between the two Chatzeros breaches, so that destroys the ability of each house to bring out things to use each eruv. Because it was hutra l'erev Shabbos, so therefore it's going to be hutra the whole of Shabbos. That's going to be the explanation. So let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah. Kol echad b'chatzero, v'after kol chatzer nifratz atzel l'shus acheres. Even though each chatzer is now nifratz because the wall between the two chatzeros is gone, and therefore it's breached into the other chatzer. She'ein meshutafin yachad, but they didn't make any partnership together. V'havik nifratz l'makom ha'asala, and therefore it's breached into a place where you cannot walk or you cannot bring things. Mikol makom kiven sheben hashmashos ha'imuta, since I could take the eruv for Chatzer A and the eruv for Chatzer B was functioning and working at Ben Hashmashos, huta l'chol Shabbos. We allow you to continue using it, i.e., to take things from the batim in Chatzer A to Chatzer A, and from the batim in Chatzer B to Chatzer B. As if the wall was still standing and you can continue using those erevin. V'afilu klei bias. V'di'ilu klei Chatzer, because if it was klei Chatzer, mutar l'taltel af mechatzer l'chatzer, gam kishenifratz. That's never a problem, because you can always carry the kelim that were in the Chatzer before Shabbos into other Chatzeros, to kol Chatzeros v'shusachas u'chudlel b'reish siman shinayim beis, like we said previously. Aval l'karmelis also. But if the breached wall does not lead on to another Chatzer, but it leads on to either a Karmelis or certainly a Mishnah, then it would be Asa. Bezeh, says the Mishnah Berurah test, Lo Amrinan Kimin She Hutra, Kamo Damrin B'Mekara, the Sham Lo Nifratz El Chatzer Shu Yachid Kamo, because there, in the first case, we're talking about whether it is leading into another Chatzer, which is ultimately in our Torah is Rosh Yachid. Ve'in B'nei Mele Shazeh Hu Yachid, V'Shazeh Hu Acher. But in this case, then if it's mamish, it's a karmelis, it's a drabon, or it's a risharabim, which is a deraisa. So So just to summarize Sif base, you've got two chatzeros. They made independent erevin beforehand, so that all the people could carry from the houses of Chatzer A into the Chatzer, and the people of Chatzer B could carry from their houses into the Chatzer. The wall breaches on Shabbos. They can continue carrying from into their own Chatzer. They can't carry into the other Chatzer, but they can carry into their own Chatzer, as if the eruv was functioning still. But that's if the breach leads into the other Chatzer. If the breach leads into a Karmelis, and certainly Rosh Hashanah, then it would be Asa. Okay, Gimel. Now, Chatzer...
They wouldn't be allowed the following Shabbos to carry.
Yeah, it's Hutras for that Shabbos, yeah. Yeah. Now, says the Mechaber, Seif Gimel, Chatzer Katana, Shenifritza, Kaidim Shabbos b'Melua leGedola. Now take a look at the picture there, picture number 15. So you've got two Chatzeros, you've got a larger one and a smaller one, and there was a wall between the Chatzer Katana and the Chatzer Gedola. But that wall was breached. So can you see that in picture number 15? There's a breach of that wall dividing the Gedola and the Katana. So that's what the Mechaber is describing. Chatzer Katana shenifritza Kaidim Shabbos b'Melua in its entirety, leGedola, into the larger Chatzer. Ve'ein ba'pirtza yosem mi'esa amas. Now, the pirtza, this breached wall, does not have a length of more than 10 amas. Gedola muteres lahitzi kelim sheshavsu bebayis lechatzera. If they had made separate independent Erevin, i.e. there was an Erev in Chotzer Katana and an Erev in Chotzer Gedola, enabling the people in the houses of the Gedola to carry into their Chotzer, and the people in the Katana could carry into their Chotzer, then, even though the wall is breached, the Gedola can continue using their Erev to carry from the houses in the Gedola into the Chotzer of the Gedola. Ukatana asura, says the Mechaber, lohitzi kelim sheshavsu b'bayis lechatzera. But the one in the smaller one, they cannot carry from the batim in the chotzer katana into the chotzer of the katana. Elim kain ervi yachad, unless they had made one eruv together, which they hadn't. But if they had, then they would be able to carry into each other's chatzeros. V'hainu k'shenichnosin kosli katana l'gedola. Now, when is that true? When the walls of the katana protrude into the gedola, as in the picture. So can you see that? The walls of the chotzer are sort of jutting into the gedola. That's when it's allowed. Where are we? And there is a gap of 3 tfachim from the wall of the chotzer katana to that of the gedola. So can you see that the wall of the katana in the picture is jutting out, and there is a gap of 3 tfachim or more between the wall of the gedola and the jutting out part of the katana wall. Why? Because if it was less than 3 tfachim, then you've got this principle of nirim b'chutz v'shavim b'fnim. I can see the walls from the outside, but when I'm standing on the inside of the chotzer katana, it's shavim b'fnim. It all looks flush and it looks straight. So if it was within 3 tfachim of the gedola wall, it's as if there's just one large wall, and that's got a different treatment, and it would not be allowed. But when is it allowed to carry in the gedola? When you've got the walls jutting into the gedola, and it's more than 3 tfachim from the side. Okay, it's a Mishnah. Lamaisa, this particular case is a Mishnah in the 9th parak of Erevin, Daf Tzadi Beis. Okay, it says the Mishnah Berurah, Shenifritz Kedim Shabbos, T'ilu b'Shabbos, because if the breach happened on Shabbos itself, Omrin and Kimin Shehutra, like we said in the previous sif, B'Melua L'Gedola Rotzolema, Shoy Smuchin Zelazeh. He's just describing the picture. The 2 chatzeros are next to each other. V'Kaisel Mafsik Bein Nehen, and you had a wall between them. V'Nifritz Kol HaKaisel Hazeh, and this wall breaches on Shabbos. V'Ein B'Piritz Yosim Es Amas. That wall is less than 10 amas wide. Te'ilu Yosim Asor, because if it was more than 10, Lo Shaykh Lemet Ktanahi Pischig Shel Gedola. Because what's the whole concept? Why is the gedola? Why are you allowed to still carry in the gedola but not in the katana? Because we're now saying that that's a pesach into the gedola. But that's only true to say if it was less than 10 amas. The pischig yosim es amas le'avd inchi. You don't make a pesach, an entrance so wide, more than 10 amas wide, then that would scupper it. So it only works to carry in the gedola if the breach of the wall is less than 10 amas. Gedola muteres. The chiddush here is that the gedola is muteres. You can continue using the eruv that you made for the gedola, and the katana doesn't usher it. Because the gedola has got its own boundaries, and that little breach there is just considered a pesach into it, and therefore you're okay to carry in the gedola. And you can even carry lahotzi kelim sheshavsu b'bayis. What's the point? Again, but we'll see that, I think, coming up. But we've had it previously as well, that a kelim which was shovis in the chotzer that you can carry into another chotzer, they're all one rishus. That's, we're talking about a scenario where the gedola made their own little eruv and the katana made their own eruv. Avalim lo irva afhi asur. If they didn't make an eruv, then for sure you can't. Uktat asura, but you cannot you've now, because of this breached wall, you cannot carry from the batim in the katana into the chotzer of the katana. Because of that breached wall, it's open now into the gedola, and therefore it was scupper carrying from the batim in the katana into the chotzer of the katana. V'hainu, but then we said, but that's only true where the walls of the katana extends, they protrude out into the gedola. Rotzolema, a Mosa Ktana Asura. When do we say the Ktana is Asura? Because Ksaleha Nichnosin or Boltin Letecha Gdoila, when they protrude out into the Gdoila. B'shtayim v'shalosh amas, by 2 or 3 amas kazeh. So that's how he's described in the diagram in number 15. Muflogim shleish tvachim, and not only do they have to protrude out, but the protrusion of that Ktana wall needs to be at least 3 tefachim or more away from the Gdoila wall. Dahainu mokum knisas mechitas hakatana muflogos mekosle Orach hagdoila shebetzidah. V'hadabo in shleish tvachim, and the reason why we need that is the ilav hochi omrinan lavod l'Orach hagdoila. We sort of just say lavod, that we sort of mesh the wall of the Ketana into the Gedola, and therefore it's not distinguished whatsoever. The imloi kain hayisa Ketana neteres, because the Mechaber said the imloi kain. This is the last line of the Mechaber in Gimel. Hayisa Ketana neteres alidei nira machutz v'shavim b'finim, because from the inside it looks flush. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Cotton Yutes, Rotzolema dim lo hayu nichnosin boltin kostek Ketana letecha gedola hayisagam Ketana muteres. Then the Ketana would actually be muteres. Not like I said before. The Ketana would actually be okay. The afal gav the shavim b'fnim, even though it looks flush from the inside, she'omed b'seicha roeh kol kislei orka v'shavim. He just sees the wall sort of the Ketana merge into the wall of the gedola. She'ein shom mikosa rechaba lepoisea klum. There's no width there. And it's open across the whole thing. It looks like it's all one wall. And it will be permitted through those walls. And that will permit not just the Gedola but also the Ketana. But in a situation as per the diagram where they're protruding in and there is a gap of more than 3 tefachim, then then you can see that they're 2 different Chatzeros, and the outer of the Gedola wall is not going to help the Ketana. Okay, so that's the end of Gimel. So essentially what have we said? We've just described that diagram, that in a situation where you've got a Chatzer Gedola and a Chatzer Ketana, each one has made their own Eruv. So, and there's a wall between them, so in a regular scenario, I can carry from the bias of the Gedola into the Chotzer, and from the bias of the Ketana into that one, but then the wall breaches. So once the wall breaches, then I've got a problem, but the problem is that it's because it's less than 10 amas, and it's more than 3 tvachim, the Ketana wall is more than 3 tvachim away from the Gedola wall, it's considered a Pesach into the Gedola, so I can continue using my Eruv for the Gedola to carry from the bias into the Chotzer Gedola, but the Ketana is Pasuach into a Mokum, which is a Seres law, and I cannot use my Eruv in the Ketana. Okay, now in Daled, just to finish off the Siman, it's going to describe exactly the same scenario, but just on a roof as opposed to a Chotzer on the ground. So I'll pass you around the pictures. It's picture number 9 and 10. I don't know if it helps you, but if 9 and 10, if you want to see it. Okay, so here we go. Dalet. Gag cotton shenifretz kedem Shabbos. You've got a small roof, so you've got a larger house and a smaller house, and a gag cotton shenifretz kedem Shabbos b'mnul gag godel, and it opens up, it breaches up onto the larger roof. Cotton also lahalus of kelim sheshavs b'bayis v'godel mutter. Same again. I can carry from the bias into the large roof, but not from the small bias into the large bias. It says the Mishnah Berurah, Gag cotton. If it was equal, then they would asr on each other. Because they're fully open to each other. They're breached. It's just that it's open. We're not talking about a case where there was a mechitza previously. I did the Sif Gimel because it just uses that lashon because we used it in Sif Gimel with a wall. You have walls between Chatzeros. You don't necessarily have a wall on top of the gag. So either way, but the point was it was open. Kodim Shabbos, the Iba Shabbos, because if it fell on Shabbos, then Omrinan Kimin Shehutra Canal. So it would have been permitted, like we said previously. So it breached before Shabbos. So b'mlur legag godel, hainu shekol hagag hakoton hu mechuven neged hakag godel hasamachlei. The small roof is open to the big roof. And we're talking about a situation where the residents of the big house and the residents of the small house did not make a joint eruv together. V'gam she'ein hagag hakoton machzig yosem es amas. And again, the width of that wall is not more than 10 amas. V'chanal b'sif gimel, like we said in Sif Gimel. Cotton osala halos, dahari nifras rishus chaver ha'osaloi. Same as before, because the small roof is open to the big one into a place which is osaloi, and therefore you can no longer carry from the bias of the cotton onto the roof of the cotton. But the big one is okay. What can't you carry into the small one? Sheshovsu b'bayis. Ilu kevin sheshovsu al agag. Again, mutla tatlan afilu l'gag lechaver b'li erev klal v'chenal b'simin shin ayin beis seif aleph. So just what can't you carry? The kalim from the bias of the cotton onto the gag of the cotton. But things which were on the roof, now you can carry in the same way that you can carry from the things which were previously in the chotzer. You can also carry things which are on the gag, because the gag and the chotzer is v'shusach. The godel is mutter. Why? Says the Mishnah Berurah Chavov lohaitzi kli habayis al gagai. You can carry the kalim from the bias godel to the gag godel. The gag and cotton legaba nechshav kapesach ba'alma. The fact that there it's open to a small gag is not a problem, because it's treated as a pesach given she'en bo yosim es amas, because it hasn't got more than 10 amas. Okay, just finishing off the mechaber, top line. V'hu sheyihiyu mechitzas habayis nikaros lemisha omed al gag. That means that if you're standing on the gag, there is a fence all the way around the roof. But if that fence is not nikar, for example, the roof sort of projects over it, then that roof area is considered, because of the lack of mechitzas, as a karmelis. Unless there is a skylight. He's got a picture of that. This is picture number 13. That's good to see. There's a skylight coming up from the big roof from the house into the big roof, because then it's nikar. Says the Mishnah Berurah of Zayin, mechitza bayis nikaros because shekol hagagos shelohen chalokin hayu, they were smooth v'lo hayu meshupayin, they weren't angled. Ucheshein beilet hagag min haksolim v'lachutz nirin mechitza bayis lo'em din al sfas hagag kishmestakin tachas ragleim. And then you can say gudasig mechitzta. You sort of theoretically raise up the sides, and you've got mechitzas or ki'ilu muk of mechitzas lamalas of vagag, and therefore theoretically you've got mechitzas all the way around the gag. Avul keshagag beilet minaksolim velachutz, when the roof is projecting out, ein mechitzas habayis nirin, we can't see the mechitzas of the house. And that prevents you from saying gudasik mechitzta. Vavi karmel is for also the taltel. And bekol echod she'ein l'shum mechitzas, afilu kelim sheshov sol hagag ki im b'toich arba amas, because it's treated like a karmelis. Sha'agag boilet sifkot and chovches davka k'sheberet arba tefachim. Avol im ein beret arba tefachim havi mechitzas nikaris. Then we can still say the gudachis, and we can still say mechitzas nikaris. That's the Magen Avraham the Rabbi. I'm Mashe Kasavnu Le'el b'simen shin mem hey seif tezayin b'be'alacha. Okay, pasuach loi. Unless you've got this little skylight where you're going from the bayis gedola up onto the roof, the mishtamshim boy that you can use the roof, says the Mishnah Berurah of Teres, v'nechshav kol hagag k'choyrei rishus hayochid, and then the roof is considered it's like sort of windows into from a rishus hayochid into it, and therefore that would be okay. We only allow you to enable you to use the kalim that were in the big house onto the roof. And it gives it the status of rishus hayochid. Of kalim that will only allow you to use kalim which were on the gag, because it's treated like a proper mechitza, but not to bring up kalim from the house onto the roof, not like I just said. Okay, Beseda, that is the end of Shin Ayin Daled. Okay, good.